It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Well, it was wonderful yesterday to read social media after the former President Trump in Nevada said that he would, one of the first things he'd do as president is get rid of taxes on tips.
Yeah, right.
And I'm telling you, some of these social media things from people that work in the service industry of Nevada. I've just changed my vote. He gets my vote. He gets my vote.
Yeah.
And you and I had a discussion on it, and we had said, well, he can't do that by himself.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Number one, he would need Congress to do it. I don't know how Congress would write a bill like that, because there would be many constitutional issues here to do it. It's not as simple as people think. When you look at income tax, for example, income tax is designated as income that is the money that is paid to you for work being done. It's different, for example, than capital gains tax.
Right.
Capital gains tax is on, investments, real estate, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a different concept. But income is money and money can be paid to you in a variety of different ways. You can be self-employed. You still have to pay your taxes.
Right.
If you get tips, that is money that is paid for you for a service rendered. The fact that it comes from the customer and not your employer, does that change the way that the courts would look at it? Now, we all know that for income, because people wonder all the time, well, how is it constitutional under the 14th Amendment, the Equal Protection Clause, to charge people more in taxes because they make more money? Well, it's simply because everybody, they read the Constitution, they read the 14th Amendment as, well, everybody is treated the same in that category.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you and I have had questions of that in the past, but that's for another day.
Yeah.
We'll stick to the whole tip thing, but that's how that passes legal scrutiny is, okay, if you make $80,000 and that this is your, what do they call, adjusted gross income, well, then that's what you pay taxes on, and everybody is treated the same, in that category.
Right.
Now, you may not be treated the same for your deductions, which many people have said constitutionally, well, why do you get a deduction? Because you've decided to do something. You have family, so you get a deduction for the children. I don't, but you're more of a drag on society because you have children who all go to, school, however you want to put it, and services that they use. That debate always comes up. The problem with tips is, would tips be viewed any different than income if your restaurant, I'm using restaurant as an example, said the customer has no choice. It's an 18% gratuity that everybody must pay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you're not getting paid directly from the customer anymore. You're getting paid from your company who has set a policy that there's a certain amount that you could get. That's income. There would be immediate lawsuits from other people that make income strictly on salary that make the same as you, but you get to pay lower taxes because of it, and there's where the constitutional problem comes in of the 14th Amendment of the Equal Protection Clause that I saw nobody address yesterday. No one. Wall Street Journal didn't address it. I didn't see anybody address that part of it. They said, no, Trump can't do it on his own. Congress would have to do it, and there would be lawsuits, but they didn't go specifically into what those lawsuits might be.
Probably why many didn't get into it, because they see it as an empty campaign promise. It's not going to go anywhere because Congress isn't going to do anything about it. Congress isn't going to change it.
Well, the only reason they might change it is next year is when the tax cuts expire, and if Trump's in office.
As a part of a bigger package, maybe.
I don't see Congress approaching it that way for tips, though.
Again, they may do something on taxes. I don't know that they're gonna do something for the service industry.
Here's the thing: would you not pay FICA on it then?
No, you do. Your employer pays it. Yeah, and that's why you have to report to your employer what you make too. You're required to, because they need to know. If you don't do the all in the bucket and then everybody shares the bucket at that location, let's say you get to keep all your tips, you have to report it to your employer because your employer needs to know how much FICA you got to pay. That comes out.
Well, you have to pay it and they have to pay it.
I know, but they take it out of your check.
Well, that's what I mean. You have to pay. That's why I asked the question. You have to pay.
You're paying that, but you have to notify. You have to report to them because they're the ones that deduct it out of your check on your side and theirs.
Right. Okay. Right.
So it has to be reported to both.
So you're not gonna get away with not paying FICA.
No.
So it would be federal taxes. My next question would be, how many people that make tips pay nothing in taxes? I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
And I know if you're working in Vegas or something like that, you may. I know a guy This goes back a long time ago. This goes back to the 80s. He was making with tips $600 a week. Well, that was huge back then. We're talking 1983.
Yeah,
he was making $600-700 a week, so he would have been paying taxes on his tips back then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So but I just wonder what the figure is for that. If they're making the argument that everybody is low waged who makes tips, well, then odds are you may not be paying much in taxes to begin with.
Yeah. Look, they could get something done on the federal wage thing, maybe connected to minimum wage, on how tips are paid or how people are paid on, the federal minimum wage plus tips, or, something like that. I might see them doing something like that, but it wouldn't be exclusive. It wouldn't be an exclusive move on Capitol Hill just for people in the service industry, just for people who earn tips. I don't see that happening.
Well, I see, like I said, I see the lawsuits immediately. Wait a minute, I'm making the same as that person.
Mm-hmm.
I have to pay more in taxes.
Yeah.
That's against the 14th Amendment,
right?
Which is, again, how they got to the decision why anybody who makes the adjusted gross income, everybody pays the exact same amount in taxes,
mm-hmm.
depending on what you make at that level. That's how they got through that one.
Right.
And that's where we have said that the 14th Amendment does not say overall everybody is treated equally across the board.
No.
You're treated equally. We said the whole thing, the same thing with gay marriage, saying you're reading the 14th Amendment wrong, but then they changed the 14th Amendment.
Right.
With gay marriage, changed the 14th Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, will they challenge it on financial things then in the future since they changed it for gay marriage? Mm-hmm. That was always our legal question on that one.
Right.
It was interesting. But I was like, these people are celebrating. Hey, I was going to vote Democrat the rest of my life. Now I'm voting for Trump.
Well,
it's Nevada, and he's trying to push him over the top. I just don't see how. I don't see how Congress could accomplish it.
I don't.
Legally.
I would be interested in a conversation where because I don't think they're going to be able to single out the service industry or those who make tips. But you might get something done on, again, hourly wages versus tips, or something on the federal level. I don't know. And that would be a long-term game. That wouldn't be something that would happen, that would go into effect immediately. You might see some short move, but I don't see anything that would, because look, hospitality workers in Nevada, they're the breadwinners in Nevada. They they have been for a long time. I was there one time staying downtown Vegas, and I woke up to them 7:00. hitting the pots and pans because they were striking down on Fremont Street.
Oh, wow.
And they were on strike, and at 7 a.m., and I mean it was right at 7, they started banging on the pots and pans. I was getting up anyway. But I just thought, man, if you spent all night out, and then you're just got in a couple hours ago, oh, that is not good.
Which many are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's
7 o'clock.
Vegas. Yeah, it's Vegas.
I'm going to sleep during the heat and be out when it's a little cooler.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I did see that, I think it was a Wall Street Journal had the number, and my first reaction was, let me just see here. All right. In 2018, the latest reported, okay, tips to the IRS, the amount of money that people reported, this is the entire United States, how much money was reported earned by tips to the IRS. $38.32 billion. I think that shows that
few people aren't reporting.
Are not reporting their tips.
Few people aren't reporting. Yeah.
It's such an idea. They did put this here in the Wall Street Journal, though. Such an idea would require approval from Congress, would create a change to the way many workers are taxed, and could be challenging for lawmakers to write and for tax authorities to enforce.
Well, the thing is that especially, I don't know what percentage of people pay with cash versus card. I'm guessing the overwhelming majority pay with card these days at a restaurant or bar, but that's not always the case. And also, some people pay their bill with a card and tip with cash. I've done that.
I do that for Uber all the time.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah.
And because I don't know, I just if I've got, or if there's like a few of us in a party and we're pooling our money together, whatever to pay the bill, and then I just want to add to the tip or something, and I'll throw more cash down. So how they are able to govern this and keep track of this at the IRS is beyond me. It's about what you report.
Well, I'm advocating that people that work first shift, our shift, which is traditionally known as third shift, that we should work tax-free because we keep the world going we keep this country going overnight.
Yeah, we do.
Does that sound good?
We're the people that stock the shelves so you can show up at the grocery store first thing in the morning.
I like how we're saying
we're actually doing something for a living. I know. Come on, just bear with us. We're the working the emergency rooms and everything else. We're certainly not qualified to do that. We show up there every once in a while, but we're not qualified to work there.
The Trump campaign hasn't provided additional details. The idea wasn't something that the Trump administration considered or studied during his first term as president, said David Kottner, who was the Treasury Department's top tax policy official. Then the proposal would create a two-tier labor market where tip workers would gain a significant advantage over other low-wage employees because they could potentially avoid Social Security taxes, Medicare taxes, and federal income taxes. Employers who owe payroll taxes on both tips and wages would have incentives to keep wages low and encourage tips instead. I don't know if it gets you out of Social Security, Medicare taxes. It may get you out of federal income taxes.
Well,
they may not.
It depends again on the reporting, because according to the IRS, you do have to report that, and they do have to pay their FICA out of their total earnings. But if you're reporting lower, then that means the employer and the employee are paying a lower amount because it's a percentage.
Right, but they're stating here that this plan might include not having to pay Social Security, Medicare, and federal income taxes, is what I just read in the sentence.
Oh, take that out of it. Okay,
yeah, that's what they're saying. You're right. That's what they're saying. I don't think that would pass.
If the majority of what they're making is tips, I don't see how you make that happen.
Yeah.
And I would also warn someone that is, in that industry, and there are a lot of people work that industry their entire life. You are only going to get out, what you're going to put in, theoretically. Theoretically, you're going to get it out.
I'm sorry. It took me a second to realize what you were saying.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Get some back.
Right, theoretically.
If it were to be the case that you would get any back one day, it would be based on what you pay in, because it would be based on those earnings, and so that would be something I'd watch. Again, if you believe completely that you're not going to see a dime of it, it's like, nope, I don't even care.
But that'd be the problem. The proposal would create a two-tier labor market where tip workers would gain significant advantage over other low-wage employees. That's where the lawsuits would come in.
Yeah.
Be like, wait a minute, you can't do that. That's unconstitutional through the 14th Amendment based on the current income tax rules and regulations that we have right now, which is a different tiers that we're taxed at. But once you're at that tier, everybody pays exactly the same.
Right. Yep.
So that's where the problem would probably come in. So that's why we doubt you would see that.
Yeah, I don't see it happening.
In that form.
Right.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Corn growers have managed to get more than 95% of that crop planted, which is equal to the 5-year average.
A bit of a miracle that we have managed to stay at or ahead of that normal planting pace in the Midwest despite frequent thunderstorms.
USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says corn emergence is also ahead of schedule.
You have to consider that just about every week in the Midwest has been at or above average on temperatures, so what's been planted, although it's been spread out over a number of weeks, is emerging and growing for the most part. 85% corn emergence on June 9th, 1 point ahead of the 5-year average.
And how does that corn look?
Very good at this early stage.
USDA currently rates 74% of the corn crop in good to excellent condition, only 5% in poor to very poor shape, much better than a year ago when only 51% of the corn was in good to excellent condition, 8% poor to very poor. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the bottom of the hour, couple of new polls out that we'll get to. Most Americans say transgenderism is a political distraction. Well, we'll get to that if that's what really is on their mind, or whether they're asked that question, whether it's a distraction.
Yeah, okay. Is it phrased that way?
Right. It may be a distraction, but is it more than just a distraction?
Yeah.
We'll get to that coming up. I do like this story here. Gavin Newsom's anti-gun constitutional amendment fails to gain support from a single state after 1 year. Governor Gavin Newsom proposal to restrict gun rights through a 28th Amendment that would replace the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution has failed to gain national traction since it was unveiled 1 year ago.
How about no?
Despite the Democratic governor's enthusiasm in 2023, exactly 0 states have agreed to his call for a constitutional convention necessary to amend the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. I would suggest, if you plan on running in 2024 or 2028, I still have to put that possibility there.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, we have 2 audio cuts of the day. We couldn't decide which one was better. The first one is from Karine Jean-Pierre.
Mm-hmm.
She was a speaker at the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. She was at a FEMA conference for risk and crisis communications.
Uh-huh. Okay.
That how does government effectively communicate when there is a crisis? Are you ready?
Okay.
Now, when I address the press from the White House podium, the only thing that stands between me and getting our message out to the American public is whether the people sitting in those chairs and the folks watching at home feel like they can trust me, feel like the information that I am providing is worthy for them, and that they can trust, obviously, that information.
What if they don't?
And earlier in the show, that set both Eric and I into a monologue. Is she and everybody there high?
Yeah.
And what are they doing?
Yeah.
Or are they now, after I saw that microdosing on mushroom chocolate, is everybody tripping?
You think?
Is there any self-awareness? I'm sorry, but is there any self-awareness to her at all? Any?
I really don't think so. And I think at FEMA, it probably came down to a dare. Hey, we need a speaker here. On what? You know, being a trustworthy representative and spokesperson. Who do you think? I don't know. How about Karine Jean-Pierre? I dare you to do it. I dare you. I dare you to do it. I'm going to do it. They did it.
You would have been better bringing in Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Wasn't he at one time called like the most trusted man? It's like,
yeah, what was that? Yeah.
And remember that? You were like,
right.
What do you mean most trusted man? He lies for a living.
Yeah.
He's an actor.
Right. What does that? What does that even mean?
Everything is a lie.
Yeah.
Now, we know it's a lie, but it's still, he's acting as a character.
Right.
He's the most trustworthy guy because he acts like he can read a script where he is trustworthy.
Right. Yeah. He played one guy that wasn't too bright. I don't know, Tom Hanks.
I'm not going to eat the mushroom chocolates.
Life says, my mama says life is like a box of mushroom chocolates. You never know what kind of trip you're going to get.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
That's where you say either they don't think like we are or they've got to be doing something that completely gives them no sense of self-awareness at all.
Yeah.
Because for that it was just amazing. And finally, Biden yesterday speaking about something.
She knows so long as she was denied, our freedom can never be secured.
What?
She knows so long as she was denied, our freedom can never be secured.
All right, as we said before, nothing funny about somebody who's losing their cognitive abilities, whether it's dementia or whatever. The sickly humorous part of it is the family. And then last week, his cabinet members came out and said, no, there's no problem with Joe Biden. The only problem there is us keeping up with him.
Right.
It's the pathological line coming from the family and from the administration, but especially the family, that there's nothing wrong with him.
If there's nothing wrong with him, then he's drinking a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that to be the case.
Yeah. In all seriousness, there is. I mean, but the sick humor is when they get up there and go, oh, he's fine. Everything is fine. That's what we're making fun of.
Well, the fact that they could even, and they keep doing that. And Joe Scarborough.
Oh, my God.
The other day.
That yes.
I talked to Kevin McCarthy, and I talked to Joe Biden for years. Yeah. Okay. Whatever, Joe.
And he's got
Whatever.
it more. He's got it more together than any Republican speaker I've ever talked to.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
That's the kind of gaslighting we're talking about, is it not? I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about.
It absolutely is. Wow. Yeah. It is just ridiculous.
Okay, here's what we've got here. 77% of Americans say politicians use transgenderism to distract voters from important political fights. The poll did not say if Americans put more blame on Republican or Democratic politicians for the transgender distraction, but the poll included a second question about politicians' greater focus on transgender claims. Do you think this is a good thing for society, a bad thing for society, or neither a good or bad thing for society? Only 16% of respondents said the extra attention on transgenderism is good for society. 40% say the extra attention is bad for society. 42% said neither good or bad. Let me see. The 16% to 40% split suggested a plurality of Americans see Biden's advocacy for transgenderism as a distraction from his damaging political policies. Actually, where I would disagree is it is an example of his damaging policies.
Yeah.
It doesn't distract. It's a clear indication that everything else that they believe in is delusional because of his thought process on transgenders.
Yeah, right.
By the way, the question was asked that way. Elected officials are mostly using debates over transgenderism and non-binary people to distract attention from more pressing priorities. So they asked the question that way.
Okay, well, that's kind of a setup.
Right. Because no, it's what they actually believe. I don't believe it's I don't believe it's a distraction. I believe it's just one of the many issues, because you could take any of the insane things that they believe.
Well, yeah.
Biden says that we can run, when he was running for office, Biden says that we can run the grid on solar and wind. Is that distracting from his other bad policies? Well,
yeah.
Well, that's so insane that it has to be.
Right. Yeah, that's the way that you ask it. Look, to be able to pull off a poll of the sentiment of the American voter the way that you and I want to get into the brain of the American voter would be enormously expensive.
Yeah, you and I have talked about
because
that. We
first of all, we have to qualify it. You know, we have to qualify the respondents. And then I wouldn't want to go down the leading questions. I would love to sit in, a room. All right, what are your biggest concerns? But again, I want a larger sampling. So the room would have to have, 1,000 people in it.
Well, plus you'd have to have the test beforehand to see if they had knowledge on the topic that you were talking about in the poll.
Yeah, that would be part of the qualifying, I guess. Yeah,
we've talked about that. We can't just poll people. You got to test them to find out, do you have a clue? Because if they say, well, no, I'm for this. Well, do you know anything about it? No, but it sounds good.
Yeah.
Should that count when you're completely clueless?
Right.
And then you have to ask, well, did you even know of the issue before I asked you the polling question?
Yeah, exactly.
That's why it would cost us too much. All right, here's something that the Biden administration does not want to happen and expect them to get involved in this very soon. Dock workers at America's East Coast and Gulf Coast seaports canceled labor talks that were due to start this week and raised the possibility of a strike later on this year, starting September 30th, at some of the country's biggest trade gateways. The International Longshoremen's Association canceled talks set for Tuesday in Newark to protest the use of automated machinery at some ports, which a union says violates prior labor agreements. The withdrawal from the bargaining table marks a harsh start to negotiations aimed at securing a contract covering more than 45 1,000 dock workers at ports from Maine to Texas ahead of the current agreement's expiration on September 30th. A walkout at that time would come as goods are flowing into the country ahead of the end-of-year holidays and threaten the American economy just ahead of a presidential election. The union's leader has previously vowed his members will strike if they don't secure a new contract before the agreement expires on September 30th. Again, the Labor Association says be prepared for a strike on October 1st. The National Retail Federation, a trade group whose members include some of the country's biggest importers, urged the sides to negotiate and called on the Biden administration to shepherd the talks. So there you go.
All right. Yeah.
We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, again, call on the Biden administration to do it. I guess that's what you do.
I'm trying to think if you you saw that American Airlines flight attendants are talking strike.
Right.
Now, whether that would come at the end of this summer or wherever, the end of the odds are, though, they wouldn't want it. They would want to kick it off before. I don't think it could start before August 1st, the strike. I know they have a cooling off period. I know that's coming up in a couple of weeks.
Right.
But as you know, the government is much more involved in things like that. Could the government get involved in this and say, you can't strike?
Maybe.
I don't know. People familiar with the negotiations say most issues specific to local ports have been resolved, but some issues, such as automation, are unresolved. The talks due to take place Tuesday would have been the beginning of the coast-wide discussions over issues such as wages. So,
yeah.
And this isn't West Coast. This is the East Coast and Gulf.
Right. Yeah. Well, and which is getting a lot busier since the whole West Coast thing fell out. I mean, this was happening in the wake of COVID, or during COVID, and in the wake of COVID as we were coming out of it. There was the West Coast unions had their fallout because they didn't want to go 24/7. There was a lot going on there, and there was a huge backup at the ports out in L.A. Well, retailers didn't have a choice. They had to reroute. They went to the Gulf of Mexico. They went to, so coming in through Galveston now, it's much busier. Also Savannah, New York. So they got a lot more work in a very short period of time. So we'll see where this goes, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this. I was when I was in Tampa last time, I was trying to, from the air, see their port, because I know their port has been growing.
Right, yeah.
And I don't know if they're union or not. I'm looking to put in.
Right.
I think most ports are unionized, though. So I'm just checking to see. I don't have it here.
I know they're busy in Galveston. I've been down there a few times.
Very busy.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. There's a headline. AOC slammed for saying accusations of anti-Semitism are false accusations And those false accusations of anti-Semitism are coming against people of color.
Okay.
And that's why. Racism is why you call somebody an anti-Semite.
You're a racist if you call someone else a racist and bigot.
Yes. Yeah. If they say anti-Semitic statements and you say you're anti-Semitic, then you're a racist.
Isn't that pretty much the I know you are, but what am I argument? She really is a child.
Well, I'm going to say that is a child's argument.
She is
so
a child.
You may be on the right path there.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.